Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. Today we have a very special webinar for you prepared. I hope you will like it. My name is Philip Heetbrink. I'm the CEO of SciLife, and together with me I have Holger. So Holger, maybe you can present yourself.
All right, for sure. So yeah, first and foremost, thanks a lot for inviting me to a bit tell my story. So who am I? I'm Holger. I'm CEO and co-founder of Relu, so a dental startup.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Holger. Just a little bit about the structure of the webinar. It will be a three-section webinar where the brief introduction will be done, which is what we're doing now. The main section will be Holger as a company, a medical device company with an important AI component, has been going through to get this on the market. And then lastly, there will be time for Q&A at the end. But we are constrained to 1 hour webinar. So any questions that are not answered during the webinar, don't worry, we will answer them over email after the webinar. So ask as many questions as you want and like. That's what we are all here for. Great. So with that, I would love to kick it off. So Holger, please, it's all yours.
All right, cool. So yeah, maybe I think for the audience, I'll briefly explain where we come from as a company. So we in fact still started when studying, all four engineers. I think all of us really had a strong passion of for AI, and we thought that, let's say, this technology is going to change the world. There is so much that you can do with it. Yeah, we have to do something with it. There's many industries not like still finding out what to do with it. So yeah, then we decided we'll make an own company, and that in fact that own company in fact was then actually focusing on providing services for life science players, and more specifically really AI services. So as well, maybe you see the four founders here. It's me, Holger. I'm CEO. We have Antoine, who is in fact helping out with all the business development. Adrian, who's really our AI person of the team, and Thomas, who is actually really making sure that the web applications that we're creating are all solid. So that's in a nutshell.
Thank you. So who came up with it? Because nobody from the four founders came from the dentistry sector, I think, right? So who came up with the actual idea to create something for that specific sector?
It's actually a great question. So indeed, we are all four engineers, so we don't have much to do with healthcare and definitely not with dentistry. But by matter of chance, I think there is a bit of a longer story. While we started during our studies thinking about this company, so we first thought of launching a product company before starting the service company. More specifically, in the entertainment sector, we wanted to, maybe some of you know, we wanted to revolutionize like dubbing, where people normally have voice actors really mimicking sounds to match the lips. We wanted to use AI to change the lips so that the voice actor is way more free in his expression. Now, that didn't take off. So what happened then was that there was actually some professors as well seeing it. Let's say, but we're as well working with faces. Why don't you do a project for us within dentistry? And it was in fact our first project that we did within the life sciences. And in fact, that sticked so well that we stayed in the dental field then later on.
So yeah, there was just a coincidence that you were working with AI, with technology to mimic the face gestures for the entertainment sector, and then you got to do this side project, which turned out to be more interesting in the end, right? That's a little bit what I understand from the story.
Exactly.
Nice. Okay. Thank you for that. Relu's product, what is it exactly, right? What is it that you came up with? Very curious.
Well, so what we in the end found out, like, is that a lot of dental specialists, so not your general dentist where you go for your annual checkup, but a specialist like an orthodontist, or let's say an implantologist, somebody who has placed dental implants, or maxillofacial surgeon who has to do like jaw surgery, for instance. In fact, they have to go through a process where they have to model the patient like virtually to do like preoperative planning. Now, this modeling phase, in technical terms, it's segmentation. They basically have to color layer by layer of 3D scans and then stitch different images together. You can imagine, it's a quite time-intensive process. So what do we do exactly? We fully automate this process. We use CBCT, iOS, facial scan, and match it nicely into a virtual patient. And that's, I think, that's the main product that we offer.
Okay, just for the audience, Holger, what are the acronyms? So CBCT, iOS, FS is then facial scan, I understand.
Yeah, correct. Facial scan. That's like a 3D optical scan of your face. Then you have the intraoral scan. That's the same, but then just actually of the inner mouth. Maybe some of you remember the time going to your dentist and having to put this paste in your mouth. Now it's fully digitized, so you can actually use, let's say, use a 3D camera within your mouth to have this 3D scan of your mouth. And then CBCT, what is that exactly? That's actually, many of you have most likely heard of CT. CBCT is the similar machine that you find in, let's say, the dental office of let's say, of the specialist, and it's a 3D radiography.
Okay, yeah.
There you go. And maybe
okay,
as well,
yeah, go ahead.
Well, maybe I can as well briefly explain, like, how do they basically get access to it. So on the one hand, we have a web application. So it's why is that? Let's say that I'm, as a maxillofacial surgeon, I can submit all my files to our platform. It automatically processes it, and then he can directly download it. So for him, it's quite user friendly. But maybe on the other hand, we're working with some dental companies. Yeah, and for them, of course, they want to offer it to their clients. So therefore, we offer an API so that they in fact can use this technology as a module within their software.
Okay. When you say dental companies, you mean dental software companies that have some kind of software solution for the dentistry sector that then use it as a component within their software. Is that it?
Yes, correctly.
Okay.
Correctly.
Okay. So you have a solution for intermediaries, so to speak, and a solution for the end, the doctor who's going to use your application directly in their.
Yes. Yeah, doctor, or in fact as well, maybe, because maybe interesting as well for the audience is often the specialist doesn't do it himself. He asks his assistants or actually like even like civil engineers or biomedical engineers to do it, because you can, it's quite complex to work with 3D data. So yeah, it just saves them a lot of time.
And yeah, definitely. So this is your ideal customer then, the two types, right? How are these regulated? So the software company probably need to comply with regulation, but then your web-based application for the specialist. So how are these solutions regulated in this sector?
Yeah, maybe good question. I think I think it took us a lot of brain efforts, but in the end, we basically concluded for the companies out there, like 80% of them have a CE certificate. Most of them still under the Medical Device Directive within Europe. But there is already one company as well that recently actually got a certificate under medical device regulation. So yeah, they're regulated. So basically, that means as well that we need to be regulated as well in somehow, and to have some procedures that we have to follow. like having a quality management system, for instance. So yeah, that has actually quite some impact on the company.
Yeah, so that's why the engineers that came from doing a POC in entertainment started doing this project, and then they figured out, then they found out the additional effort from a regulatory perspective that would come on top of this if you wanted to start a business and really launch a product, which is just not just a research product. You need to put a lot of stuff in place, right? And that's why you are a medical device company now, correct?
Yes. We're not yet a medical device company. I think we're a medical device company pending. Because
Yeah,
I
okay.
not
You're waiting
actually
for the certification.
submitted the technical file even this week still. So
Okay.
yeah, and actually this maybe guides me as well through like what is the process that we had to run through. Can say it's not easy. I have an engineering background, so for me all of this is new. Let's say the legal and the quality aspects. So I think I definitely needed some assistance in this trajectory. One, what do I have to do, and then how do I have to do it? So I think here I received a great amount of help from consultants of QBD, who actually helped me with, let's say, a specialist in each of these domains. Like our quality management system needs to be according to ISO 13485. I think this was like a project of a few months. Then the software that we made, we need to validate that it works as intended, that it is thoroughly tested, that we have thought about the risks. We as well did this with Jonathan from QBD. We have the clinical evidence that we gathered. So here I work together with maxillofacial surgeons who really had deep insight in their digital workflow, as well with regulatory experts from QED to really match it to the standards, and then combine all these things in a technical file that we then can submit to a notified body, and then hopefully get a CE mark in return for all this hard work. And maybe as well, Philip, interesting for you. So I think I was when I heard this story the first time, I was thinking like, how am I going to manage all this amount of paper documents? It's all digital, by the way. We're 100% digital company. We don't have papers. So, but how are we going to manage it? It's such an enormous amount of work. So, but then we find out as well about the SciLife. I think in there, I think that saved us just a lot of time. I have to honestly say, just to keep managing all this vast amount of documentation.
Yeah, it makes it easier. That's absolutely the objective. Just for the audience, because here in Holger is from Relu. I'm CEO of SciLife. We're talking about QBD. QBD is Quality by Design, is this consultancy group that started out in Belgium. There are 400 consultants now, and Holger is a customer there, and QBD is a very important partner of SciLife.
Yeah, basically, I think we validated according to the standard IEC62304, which is like the V symbol, that you first have to think about your designs. Then, in fact, going to assess, let's say, what are the risks associated to this, let's say, these user requirements. Then based on these implemented, then based on the implementation, we would then first we first have to draft all the tests. Both we have a lot of automated tests and a lot of manual tests. Then do the implementation, then run all these automated tests, do all the manual tests, and I think only once these are successful, because if not successful, of course, then we have problems. Then we just have a risk. Then we just summarize all our risk analysis, all our tests. We analyze all our tests, and only then we come to, let's say, a validated state, and we can do a release. So I think, and if you want to know 80-20, what's the most amount of work, I think it's like, I think it's the risks and the tests. I think that definitely took us a very long time to really go into the details. We have, let's say, documents of more than 200 pages regarding the tests. All right. And maybe as well want to highlight a bit, let's say we did all this. You would wonder why a startup like ours would invest all this time and efforts. And maybe to give you as well a bit of perspective on how long it took us. I think I started back in 2021 when we were still in fact under MDD, like really like January, finding out what are the steps we have to take, what do we have to do, where is the proper expertise that we can really transform our company into this, until like now, recently, like only like currently I submitted all technical documentation and our entire quality management system to a notified body. And it will then still take, let's say, at least another 9 months before we will have a CE stamp that we can sell as a medical device in Europe. But why do we do it? Because I think that's interesting, why it motivates us to go this extra mile, is that we really can serve clinical purposes, like helping in the assistance of dental implants, in CMF surgery, like jaw surgery, but as well can as well have things to do with, for instance, the nerves, but as well orthodontics, like which can as well be, let's say, quite impactful, where you're really going to move teeth around your mouth. So you definitely as well have there some complications possible if not done properly. Voilà. So, oh, Marine, yeah, there we go. Maybe as well another word about let's say about the laws. So we're a digital health company. So basically, we have, let's say, put a lot of efforts in getting them in working towards a medical device software. But on the other hand, as well, yeah, we're dealing with personal data. So maybe you think we can remove the names, we can remove all, let's say, all types of identifiers like gender, like age, like hospital. But the thing is, definitely for imaging data, it's biometric data as it's defined in the law. So it's, you can one-on-one match, in fact, a person with it. So maybe some of you know as well that, let's say, the dentition is often used in forensics to identify people. That means we're biometric data, we're by definition personal data, and we have to adhere to privacy laws. So as well, I'm in fact fully in the process now to working towards, we are in compliance with the European privacy laws, but as well working towards compliance with the US privacy laws. So that's another challenge, let's say, regulatory challenge that we have to face to be, let's say, be active both in the European and US markets.
Okay, thank you for that, Holger. I think we have Philip here finally.
Yeah, I moved to another place. Sorry to everybody for the issues. Let's see if it's now solved and that internet is not acting up anymore.
Okay.
So you're presenting, right, Marina? So can you just keep presenting just to make sure?
Yes, sure.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, maybe as well wanted to briefly explain how does this process happen of let's say this magic that we combine, let's say 3D Röntgen, X-ray and 3D optical scans into a virtual patient. Well, it's basically deep learning. So what is deep learning? You wonder, it's one of the, let's say, one of the AI technologies, which is an enormous umbrella of, let's say, very old school algorithms to like neural networks, which we as well call deep learning. And it basically relies on statistical insight. So you just feed it a lot of data. So I'm not talking about like tens of data. I'm talking like about, think as we do, like 10,000s of scans of faces of the patient that the AI need to see and then actually learn on it. So it really, let's say, it really is becoming trained, as we as well call it,
Exactly.
to recognize this type of images. And then, of course, once it's trained, you just can feed it all this data, and it in fact is going to 3D model it automatically, which we call then an inference. So that's, I think, like in a nutshell, the technology behind it.
So one question that comes to mind, Holger, which I think the audience might also be thinking about. So you're a medical device with an AI component. This AI component is trained by, in the way that you just explained, by thousands, 10,000s of data points or examples that are then training the system. So once you use that AI component, people might see it like a bit of a black box in which you do not really know what happens when you feed it something and a result comes out that you then use in the application. And the question is then, how do you validate such a thing? Because to get your CE, you have to somehow validate this software solution. So how do you go about validating something that has an AI component in it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. I think the first answer to this, because it's a bit, I'm going to give a bit of details here because I can't give just like a plain answer. First answer is the principle behind our AI is it always works in a proposal-based manner. So it's going to do an excellent job. I think we have accuracies of above 99%. No, I'm not thinking, I'm actually sure about it. I just checked the numbers yesterday. So we have accuracies above 99% for all, let's say, for all our AIs, but we still work with proposal. Why? So just to just stay within the idea that let's say the specialist should check before using it. So they still have to validate, okay, is this correct result correct? That's on the first level. Now, of course, I think maybe in the future, if we're like at 99.999%, then maybe it can be fully autonomous. Yeah, I think that's let's say far-fetched. I think we could change that. So I think that's the first answer. Second answer is we do validate our AIs as well. So how do we validate them? Well, we always do some, we were maybe as well, I think to give you a bit of context, we're always adding data to the AI. So it becomes always smarter in some way, it becomes more robust. It learns to recognize more and more, let's say, different anomalies, different types of morphologies of a jawbone, for instance. So it's constantly learning. So in fact, we have a test set that we predefined, and we're going to run the AI on that. And we see, let's say, what's the benchmark? And we say, okay, look, this is being checked by specialists themselves. We have as well a dentist within the team that just checks the AI. Does this make sense? Now, if we have new data added, we'll in fact give a bit of this data to, let's say, training portion and a bit to the test portion. That way, in fact, expand the test set and at the same time expand the training set. And we always assure that if we release a new AI, it's always better than the previous one. Anything then, it's still then, I think the results as well, let's say, still the dentist, let's say a specialist that understands these structures, they have a look at it before we can go.
Well, and it's a SaaS platform, right? So from my understanding, it's that all the customers within the cloud are using the same AI component. So whoever uploads images automatically is feeding more data to the AI, making it smarter for everybody. Is that how it works?
It's not automatically. It will always be the data will because we have so much data arriving on our platform, we don't have the capacity, because as well, to give you an idea, like if you want to do all this virtual patient like manually, it's going to take you like 20 hours to make it. So we have to handpick the type of scans that we want to do. And that way, so we first all screen the type of morphologies that we as well want to support, and then going to add these, then going to correct these if needed, and then going to feed them to the AI.
Okay, so there's a manual process to select what makes the most sense to make our AI more intelligent over time. It's not that it's automated. The more people use your AI, the more data you feed it to it, you feed to it, the smarter it gets over time. Would that, I understand that the reason is data and maybe also efficiency, but would that make sense in the future to automate this part or not really?
Absolutely. I think it's not super manually intensive, but yeah, we're definitely thinking of it, but at the moment not, given as well the limited capacity of the team.
So from a validation perspective, you normally validate a version of something, right? Then you close that. You cannot touch the code or anything because then you have to do validation steps again. So what you're doing now makes sense because you only you have a version of your solution. You validate that according to benchmarking data. And then when you feed more data to your AI, you do that separately. Once it gets smarter, then you release a new version of your solution, which is then again validated because you go through validation steps again.
Exactly.
So how do you see that automated? Because you would then have to. So people are uploading images to the platform. It automatically makes your AI smarter, but then you would have to have some kind of pipeline to automatically test according to the benchmarking data, right? So you would have to automate also the testing process.
Yes, in fact, that's correct. I think the handpicking of the scans, I think that's one of the most manual work still, and then making the ground truth data. But once that's there, I think that the entire process is automated. Let's say the training of the AI, let's say comparing it to benchmarks, to this test set. In the moment that we are happy, we'll as well run it, in fact, through this test set and see if it indeed can live up to its promises. And let's say if it indeed performs better, okay, then it's all retested. Then we do, let's say, then we still have the documentation process where we have to put in the test report and the risk report what changed. But yeah, basically that's it. And there's still manual signatures needed. But I think like compared to, for instance, the let's say front-end development, there we have to do a lot of manual testing, and that just takes way more time. That takes way more time with the documentation process.
Okay, makes sense. So yeah, I see a few questions already coming in. If you have questions, don't forget you can already post them in the Q&A section, so we know also how many questions there are, and we can plan time accordingly. So yeah, feel free to post them there. Also, if I see that the question is very related to the slide, I will immediately ask it to Holger. So you do not necessarily need to wait to the end. Good. So shall we go to the next slide, Holger? What do you think?
Fine for me.
Perfect. That would be Marina, though. There we go.
All right. Yeah, maybe I think it's also interesting to know where we're coming from now. You've heard a bit longer story that we, in fact, funny. We started on, let's say, still at the university, working in the entertainment, but actually then quickly pivoted to the life sciences sector, where we provided services. At that moment, we were still like a team of three engineers. One of our 4 co-founders was at that moment already went working. In fact, we just saw this, let's say, this amazing opportunity within dentistry. So maybe didn't elaborate enough on that yet, but dentists, their main source of doing diagnosis, doing analysis, doing treatment planning, it's images. It's all images. So yeah, we just saw this awesome opportunity to actually combine our let's say our passion of AI with, let's say, all these images they produce. And what was even better was that the softwares that we found were often very user friendly, so to say. That we say like we can do this better, we can make it way easier with the help of AI and automation. So this, in fact, as well, I think we got a lot of industry interest as well. This culminated in even a project within the orthodontics that we started now exactly a year ago, and I think that really accelerated our entry within in dentistry. We launched a product, the virtual patient, as you've seen. Now, I think definitely for the audience interesting, this is not a medical license, this is a research license. So who's using it? Academics, professors, as well, some pioneers as well that want to use it for non-medical purposes. Because in fact, I think once we got as well, let's say the project within orthodontics, we knew, okay, we will go into dentistry. Dentistry is going to go into MDR. We want to be compliant. We started the trajectory, and voilà, we hope to get our medical device or virtual patient in medical device format by the start of 2023.
Okay, interesting story, and you have a big journey already done. One thing that I'm wondering, right, from a business perspective, we know that medical device companies take quite some years to go to market and really get some revenue. So how are you, because now everything is already delivered or submitted to a notified body, right? You're waiting for certification. So how do you, and that can take what, 9 months, 10 months?
At least 9 months. That's what they...
At least, yeah. So how do you bridge the gap, right? Between I developed all this, it's there, I have a research license, people start using it, I submitted it, and I really want to go to market, but I really can't until I have my certification, which can take at least 9 months, maybe 12 months. It's a whole year. How do you bridge that gap from a business perspective? What do you do to make sure that you get some revenue? Or yeah, what is your plan, or what are you doing to mitigate that?
Yeah, I have to say, Philip, financing really changes a lot with the growth of the company. I think we initially survived by just not paying ourselves. That's as well easy to minimize costs. So none of the founders were paid. That was quite easy. Then we as well said, like, okay, we'll maybe pay us, let's say, I think then we had to move out of our houses, given that we graduated. Then we started paying, let's say, just the minimum that we could survive. But that allowed us as well to already have some increase the amount of savings that we got, because we were doing projects, so there was revenue coming in. Okay. And as well, I think that's how we continued working. Then we have this very big project within orthodontics, where we in fact as well got revenue in actually to make a project possible, both from actually from a company, but as well that allowed us, for instance, as well to get some subsidies from the Flemish governments by
government.
Yeah. So that as well helped us out.
Okay.
But then, yeah, how to continue? Because of course, subsidies only brings us so far, and not paying yourself brings you only so far. So yeah, today we're in fact selling our products under research license to both dental companies and to dental specialists. And that's where revenue is currently coming from. And that in fact allows us to bridge the gap, because often these companies, they first want to integrate it. They want to see how is this component going to work. There's then the type of contracts that we close. And then after, let's say that often like takes a year, this contract. And then after this, they would start with a clinical license. So then our medical certification will come right in time.
Yeah, exactly. So the solution is basically do projects as much as you can in relation to this product that you developed. Get subsidies as much as you can to make sure that the medical device can keep growing as it waits for certification. And then lastly, start selling already, right? That's really the lean approach. You have to start selling and get commitments from companies, from customers, to make sure that once certification is there, that you're not selling after the fact, that you start selling then you're a year too late, basically, because between first contact and really investigation and adoption of your solution, months can pass. So yeah, that obviously takes time.
Exactly.
Are you able to? So they're waiting for these customers that you have now that would like to have the clinical or use it in clinical projects. Are they willing to pay for a research license in the meantime, or that's not how it works? During the sales cycle or the investigation phase, are they paying already for the research license in while they wait for the certification, or?
You mean like
How does
more
it
like, for instance, a maxillofacial surgeon, for instance, or?
Yeah, or a software company that is investigating your API to include it in their software.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening right now. This is like these
Okay.
companies and these specialists. They're in fact just currently using the research license.
Okay.
That's perfectly fine for them because they have the view that we'll have a medical device in let's say. So I can say it's quite tight timing.
Yeah,
You can't say this was, let's say, the nicest year in that sense. Like I mean, like last year, given was a lot in parallel that we had to manage, but okay.
Yeah. Okay.
We gotten here.
All right. Next slide, Marina. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, maybe then I think to close off. Let's say on my part, what I want to still share with the audience is that we are. I think definitely we're now going for the entire MDR trajectory, but we're as well planning soon on getting the same done for the USA, which is then, let's say, the standards as being defined by the FDA. To as well there sell more than a research license, as well, let's say, a medical license. So why? It's because I think we talk to a lot of people in dentistry, and what we learned is that, for instance, in the Middle East, or let's say even like in Asia, often if they see you have either FDA or CE, or even have the combination for the doctors, at least, they say, that's sufficient for me. If you have CE or FDA, these laws are very strict, then it's fine for me. Then you don't need to go through my own regulatory instances.
Okay.
So I think that definitely gives us just this global, I think definitely gives us way more global leverage. And then, the other thing, I'm sorry for my voice.
No worries.
As well, besides the dental specialists that we're aiming today on, we as well will focus on general dentists more in the future, because I think dental specialists, in the end, it's only a fraction of the people that come in contact with, whereas a general dentist, there is a lot of people going to his dentist on an annual basis, and they're as well taking images. So we're currently exploring as well some ways if we can use our technology to help them as well. So that's maybe as well a move that can be expected. Okay.
So I see here, US. You're planning on going to the US already. Why so soon? Do you think that Europe will be too small of a market for this solution, and that's why you want to go to the US, or is there some other particular reason? Yeah,
I think there is it's the second. I think second biggest market for, if not the first biggest market for dentistry. Depends on which metrics you look at. So just as well, I think with Europe and US, you already target a lot of dentists, and it's very easy doing business. And I think as well from a revenue perspective, that I think there is a few things. One is their willingness to pay is way higher, and two, they are as well more easily adopting new technologies, because often we have often, let's say here in Belgium, for instance, you have very little dentists for a lot of population. I think you have everybody knows of, let's say, I think definitely in Belgium, of, let's say, the huge queues. Let's say you have to wait 3 months before you can visit the dentist.
I didn't know. Okay,
way more,
crazy.
yeah, it's way more marketing. So there you really have to reach out to your clients and show I'm more innovative, I'm faster, offer better treatments. So their willingness to adopt new technology is way higher. So that's as well a big benefit.
Okay. And what about competition? Do you think it's stronger in the US or in Europe? What do you expect there?
Competition is definitely going to be stronger in the US because startups just launch way faster and die way sooner. But yeah, they as well get access to a lot of capital. So in that sense, it's tough. But specifically on our focus, the B2B sales, we are currently, in fact, already having research licenses with US companies. So, and how is that? That for the, let's say we offer for software companies this solution. There was only one other company doing the same, but they got acquired by one of the big dental players. So yeah, that leaves only us now that has to serve all the other software companies that either has to make a build or buy decision, either make this fully in-house, or work with us together, which is way cheaper. So I think in that way there is not that much competition. Now for the web application itself, there is quite some competition, and I would as well say it's more. I think the market is just more dynamic in the US. So yeah, I'm expecting more fierce competition there as well.
Yeah. So would you say that here in Europe you have very little to no competition right now for what you've developed so far with this solution? Is that the case? And you only have competition in the US?
I think for the web application, so the web application directly, so direct to customer, if we say it that way, we do have competition in Europe and in the US.
Okay.
It's the application that we sell towards companies, so really serving it as a component, the B2B business. There we don't have any competitors at the moment.
Okay. And as you go to the US and you will need more cash, are you planning to raise a round of funding to leverage on, because there is very little competition, to somehow leverage on the first mover advantage, or what are your plans there?
Good points. In fact, I'm planning of having some fundraising, I guess within this year, maybe start of next year. So indeed to accelerate indeed the business and try to keep the lead on this solution. Yeah, I think I think definitely for software business, it's just a matter to have speed. Let's say speed is your friend, because software just evolves at a tremendous speed. So you have to go fast, and fast means a lot of people, a lot of intelligent people. So means as well you need to pay them. So yeah, we need some funding if we want to go faster.
Absolutely. And then from sales, marketing, a perspective, also entering new markets, all that costs money. So yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so yeah, we have about a bit more than 10 minutes left. I see some interesting questions that came out already from the audience. I want to motivate you to ask more questions. We're starting now with a Q&A session. I have a first question here from Anna, who posted it already earlier. How many patients did you use in the clinical study, and which parameter did you use to compare the result of the virtual patient? And then I have a follow-up question from her, but let's start with this part.
Although maybe the purpose is quite, I think that's I think that's
oh, you already read it.
Yeah.
You want to start with that part?
Yeah, maybe just that it's super clear what we exactly do. So let's say, imagine you're a surgeon. You're going to operate a jaw, and for instance, you want to actually print a 3D model of this jaw to, for instance, pre-bend a surgical plate, so you can attach it to this jaw after you have cut it and, let's say, replaced it. That's a use case, but that means you need to 3D print such model. And before you can 3D print such model, you first need to digitally create such model. And that type of work is currently done either by the surgeon himself or by an assistant, which often has an engineering degree. That takes like 2 hours. And yeah, now for us, it's basically upload, AI, check, do the verification, and it's done. So yeah, that's reduced to, let's say, a fully automated process. So that's the purpose of the virtual patient.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I hope that the purpose is then clear. If we go to the first part of the question, how many patients did you use in the clinical study, and which parameter did you use to compare the result of the virtual patient?
Yeah, many patients. I think we did a lot of clinical studies. Now, I think interesting with AI studies, often there is just a lot of data involved. I think we had for instance, when validating the AI for really recognizing each individual tooth, we had 200 patients. And no, we as well did the one for the airway. We had like 100 patients. So, but it's often the case for AI studies because you want to show, let's say, a certain type of robustness. So
yeah, of course.
Now we not only do, I think maybe we didn't only use our own, let's say, our own data, but as well, I think there is some research published on it. So as well, we did a quite thorough literature review, in fact, on it. And what can I say about that? That we have, maybe we have a lot of more data, in fact, on that point as well. I think many more patients. So I think maybe 100 per type of AI at least, I would say.
Okay.
Order of magnitude.
I hope that. Yeah, I hope that answers the first question, Anna. Regarding the parameter that you use, I remember in previous, it gets technical, right? In previous chats that we had, Holger, you mentioned something about parameters. I thought, okay, that's very interesting, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit on that.
All right. So basically, you have to imagine you're comparing 3D models against each other. Now, I think a very famous parameter is, of course, accuracy, which is just a mathematical construct. It's always above 99%. But I think some metrics that provide a bit more insight on how well the AI is performing is what we call intersection over union, which basically shows what is the overlapping part over the, let's say, the union of the two models. Imagine they would not be in the same place. And that is as well often beyond 80%, which is, well, I think this is classified within AI as like very, very good as well. Then the question is, okay, but I want to know clinically if I can use it. Then as well, I can say there, you can as well measure in the, you have these two volumes. You can see how far they are from behind. How much space there is in between them. And there, this kind of deviation we as well measure, and that's in the median is way below 0.5 millimeter. Often we're only like at 200, let's say at 0.2 millimeters. Yeah, I think which is at, let's say, at the accuracy of the raw image that has been taken. So, well, that's I think the 3 types of metrics that we use.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Anna, if you have any follow-up question, definitely let us know. Donal says, Holger, what type of software skills do you require in this discipline?
So we have, in fact, a bit of insight in our team. We have, in fact, a team fully focused on AI. They basically, they're backend engineers, because they're creating algorithms and make sure they run properly on servers. So maybe a coding language, it's Python, framework, things like PyTorch. So that's needed there. Very strong algorithmic thinking. Often these are mathematical engineers. We have on our on more front end facing, more customer facing, because we have this web application as well. We have like really web developers working in JavaScript, working in frameworks like Vue or React. But yeah, as well, given that we are a SaaS software, so we we have to provide
Cloud
international.
architects. Yeah.
Sorry?
Cloud architects and
Exactly.
the whole cloud infrastructure.
DevOps, etc. Voilà. It's we have the entire, let's say, the entire stack of engineers. But I think like the most special profiles in Relu are the, let's say, the guys thinking out the algorithms, and as well on the front end, given that we have 3D web applications, just the people that really know well how to develop in 3D, which is, I think, like, yeah, you just don't learn that at university. So a lot of these, we had to train everybody, in fact, here in the house.
Yeah, okay. Donald, I hope that answers your question. I have a question from Rucha. How do you protect your intellectual property rights?
Very good question. I think one of the things is in software business is going fast is your best protection, because software is just very hard to protect. I think in Europe it's not even legally allowed. Let's say I'm not talking, by the way, about patents. It's not legally allowed. I think, yeah, maybe there is some, you can find some loopholes. In the US you can do it, but the thing is, yeah, we did our freedom to operate, and we just thought with ourselves, it's so easy to circumvent all these patents, and they paid a lot of money and time in it. So at the moment we just said, maybe another argument is the algorithm we had 3 months ago, that's already completely changed, updated, improved on a lot of points. So yeah, then why protect something that is changing so fast?
Constantly, absolutely.
So in that sense, we're most likely, maybe we're going to patent things, but that's I think way down the line. I think now we're investing like still fully in R&D, and as we're still developing and improving so fast, for me, it doesn't make sense at this moment. Now, copyright, trademark, trade secrets, I think, yeah, these legal things are in place. So yeah, these we do.
Yeah. Contractual agreements with whoever uses the software and all that stuff, obviously. But yeah, it's the same with SciLife, right? You cannot re-patent the whole platform. You just have to keep developing and improving it so that you keep ahead of the curve from a competition perspective.
Exactly.
Because things are changing very, very rapidly indeed. That's how it should be, because business and market needs are also constantly evolving and changing very rapidly. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Rucha, I hope that answers your question. Thank you for that. We have 2 more minutes, so let's squeeze in one more question or two. Yeah, so David, do you have clinical evidence?
All right. On clinical evidence, yeah, I think as well maybe addressed, let's say it's a bit previously, we have done, let's say, we have done a literature study review, because that's what we had to do for a class 2A device. But what I can say, as part of this literature review, we in fact could reuse a lot of the academic research that we've been doing in the past 2 years. So we're working, in fact, very closely together with, let's say, the University of Leuven. So yeah, that already gathered a lot of, let's say, very interesting data regarding clinical evidence. But then, yeah, doing the entire literature review, finding actually data from all over the world, I think, yeah, just strengthened the case that these things are performing. I think, yeah, biggest conclusions are there, like that with AI, these things are, your results are way faster, like speed up of X times 1,000 compared to doing it manually, like often more accurate, because it's often brain draining. You need already like engineers to do it, but it's, yeah, you're working in 3D. You have to, I think it's often very hard cognitively. I've been doing it myself in the early days, and consistency. Just you always know that you're going to expect the same answer, basically. That's
absolutely.
Very
thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. I hope that answers the question. With that, we have to wrap up. That concludes the webinar for today. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for listening to us and your interesting questions. I hope it was helpful. It was that it was interesting to that you learned something or take away something from it. Thank you very much for Holger for being here. And
My pleasure.
yeah, I wish everybody a great day ahead. Goodbye.